Colin Powell once said, "There are no secrets to success. It's the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure." And we couldn't agree more. This is Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. We'll talk to people from all walks of life and pick their brains about their journey, the process, and the ups and downs to becoming successful. You want inspiration and motivation? It all starts here. This is the Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. And now your host, Kyle Sullivan.
What's going on, champions? Welcome to another episode of Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Sullivan. And today we have Carrie Schmidt. She is the founder and CEO of Infinite Solutions, a transformational life and business success coach. She recently released her first book, which we were talking just briefly on before we hit record. It's called Behind the Screen, which teaches a 7-step life timeline system for transformation to help the readers connect with power, passion, and purpose. Come on now, listeners. Y'all are going to be in for a treat today. Carrie provides life coaching, business consulting services that delivers her clients with total transformation. Her vision is to reach, teach, and transform over 1 million lives globally, helping them raise their human consciousness and mental health awareness. Carrie, welcome to the show.
What's up, Kyle? Thanks for having me on. I'm excited. Let's unleash the champion.
Come on now. Well, Carrie, this was a long time coming, and just as we got connected, I said, man, this is total alignment. And so we got what you do. But we would like to start off here by going, okay, who is Carrie behind the bio?
Behind the bio, I am a single mother. My son is 15 years old. I've raised him on my own since he was born. When he was born, I focused on my son and my career. And I climbed the corporate ladder over the course of 10 years until I was a general manager of a $100 million manufacturing facility, 24/7 operation, unionized in the Pittsburgh Steel City area. Learned a lot, grew a lot, got to where I felt was high enough with money and a title, and I still wasn't happy. I still was longing for something greater. So I embarked on a spiritual journey. I went out to Los Angeles. I studied with Mary Morrissey and the Brave Thinking Institute. I became a certified life mastery consultant and learned so much over just the past 5 years that I think more people need to be aware of. More people need to be aware of the power that we have inside of us, how to connect to your passion and your purpose and really make a difference in the world. I think 2020 brought us all to kind of just look within, look in our family units and decide what's really important. And so now I want to be a voice and a leader of the revolution, whatever it might be, to help people get unstuck out of the mud hole, I like to call it, or some of my clients will call it a mud hole, get out of that just hamster wheel and just start really living life with purpose and passion. So that's who I am and what I'm about.
I love that, Carrie. And you mentioned, in 2020, it disrupted all of us. There's no, it's the only thing I believe in our lifetime that united an entire world with a shared experience. And it, with that disruption, allowed for reflection. And you saw so many people taking things that they thought, man, maybe one day I'll do that. And they're going for it. Or people were crippled by, I don't know how to operate now. I don't know how to engage with people. We have this division. We have separation. We also want things really fast, and Amazon can get things to you in 2 hours. So we live in this world that is challenging on all fronts. And I know one of the things that you say is our world gives value and attention to an ego mindset and a passion for all the material things. But why do you think it still leaves us unfulfilled?
Because we're not truly connected. We're not we are looking on the outside for the answers. We're looking out there, for someone else to make us happy, for something to fill the void within us, whether it's drugs, alcohol, online shopping, emotional eating. We're all seeking this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, I like to say, but we're looking for it in the wrong places. We're mesmerized by these beautiful models and, skinny and just all of the perfection that we're seeking. Nothing is perfect. We live in a dual universe. There's positive and negative, there's highs and lows, and we all go through the highs and lows. But I think the key is balance and coming back to center, coming back to ourselves, loving ourselves, because you can't love anybody else until you love yourself. And that is very challenging for a lot of us, maybe most of us, because of the egoic lens. So we can see life through an egoic lens or a spiritual lens. There is no other difference. A Course in Miracles says that you can either love or fear, right? So it's love or fear, spirit or ego, however you want to look at it. But it's learning how to navigate that essence of life and try not to get sidetracked into the darkness, right? We want to seek the light. So we need more light workers in the world to help the people that are stuck in the dark places to come out. So come on now, let's shine some light.
Come on, get your lights ready. Let's go. So you mentioned something that I'd love for you to define, because when people say, "Oh, we just need to strive for balance," what does that mean to you?
Balance is, again, coming back to center, coming back to my source. And I like to say in my book, I am that I am. They say that in the Bible, that God said, I am that I am. Well, it's the same thing with our thoughts. You are what you think. You are what you believe. But that's again, the lens of life. But coming back to center is, I think, your connection with spirit, source, infinite intelligence, God, whatever you want to call the higher power. Because there is a collective consciousness. There is an infinite intelligence. And I study quantum physics and a lot of the scientific sense that I think kind of explains spirituality, the science behind spirituality. And we all have to come back to our creator and our essence of life and breathe that into ourselves so that we can really live a life with purpose.
Yeah, I like that. I like your answer a lot better than most when they say, "Oh, I want balance," because I'm like, balance is BS in the societal, definition of
Mm-hmm.
like, people say work-life balance. And I'm like, nah, there's really no part of that. But I love how you said, hey, it's a centeredness, and sounds a lot more like just being in harmony with oneself, being secure in who you are, being able to say, hey, this is what I'm about. This is what I want. This is what I desire. This is what my consciousness is. So let's dumb it down. Let's think we're talking to dumb it down. That's not as good as I'd like to say. But let's say we're talking to a group of middle schoolers.
Yes.
What is consciousness? And
Consci-
why is it important for us to be aware of it and raise our consciousness?
Consciousness is your awareness. It is what you're paying attention to. But it's also integrated with the oneness, the awareness of oneness, and that we are all connected. You see, I talk about this in the book too, is the virus was a catalyst for change. The virus wasn't bound by stereotypes, religion, currency, socioeconomic status, what ethnicity you are, what borders are around, nothing, and that I think showed us that we are all one. And this is what we need to understand in our humanness, is that we are all from the same source. No matter what you believe in, there is one source, one creation, and we are all one with that. And raising our level of consciousness is raising our awareness to the power that we hold. I am that I am is me. God is in me. I have the power within me because I am one with the source of creation. And when you can start to understand that, you can start to override the egoic lens of life, of that passion for riches, material things, bullying, instant gratification. Let's separate each other. Let's fight with each other. No, that's not what life is about. We need to come back to the center. The harmony is love. Love is the answer. So when you can raise your level of consciousness, it is your awareness to the presence of love. It is your awareness to the fact that we are all created equal and we are all from the same source. It is raising your awareness to the power that you hold. And, we're conditioned from childhood. From 0 to 7, our brains are in a theta brainwave frequency. So we're downloading everything that we're around, whether it's negative or positive. Problem is, most people operate with faulty programming that is still playing in their subconscious mind, repeating the same habits and conditions of life. When you can raise your level of awareness, become an observer of yourself, you can start to notice bad habits, negative ways of thinking, and you can start to gain more power and control over your own reactions. And instead of reacting, you can respond. It's my ability to respond, responsibility. So that's what raising our level of consciousness is about. It's about understanding that we're all one, the power of one, and raising our level of awareness to be better spiritual beings.
Somebody start that journey. Because that sounds like, oh my gosh, how do we connect to that? How do we even start? What's step 1, 2, 3 of somebody looking to go, okay, how about that? How do I do it?
You know what? Unfortunately, I feel like too many people wait for the wake-up call to start this journey. And I like to say there's the 3 Ds: death, disease, or divorce is usually the driving wake-up call for most people. Now, let me say this. Don't wait for the wake-up call. So for me, it was the death of my father. And it was about 8 or 10, I don't know how long ago, but he was 60 years old and passed away with pneumonia. And it was the first time I ever lost somebody close to me. And I realized how short life is. It's gone. Blink of an eye, it's gone. So, maybe you're at a place in your life where you want to make a change and you want to get better at life, or you experienced a wake-up call and now you're really ready to get better. But it takes your will. Your will is the only thing that you have that can discern between, if I want to do something or not. You have to be willing to. No one can force you into trying to get better at life or trying to transform. You have to want that. So when you really feel that longing for something greater, you're discontent with your current circumstances, and you're just ready to make a change, now you can start. And for me, it took I started reading books, listening to Audible books, listening to podcasts, doing the research, watching Gaia. Gaia is like the Netflix for spirituality, I like to say. So, start educating yourself in areas that you have an interest in developing. If it's personal development, start reading about personal development, self-help. And I tell in the book Behind the Screen, I teach a 7-step system of transformation to help you identify your unconscious behavior patterns. So this is my reaction to triggers, right? We as humans, we experience life through our emotions, but our brain actually, our emotions happen before the brain cognitively is aware of it. So that's why most people react, right? Because we are triggered by this emotion, we react, and then later on we're like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And then you're constantly saying, I'm sorry. So it's identifying those unconscious behavior patterns and overriding them. So you have to go back and remember, where did I observe this behavior, in my life timeline? And most often it goes back to 6, 7, 8 years old. And somebody, did this as an adult or as a parent or a caretaker. You picked up these faulty programs in your subconscious mind, and now they are automatically your defense mechanism of how you're responding to triggers. And so you have to learn where it came from, and you have to process the emotions from the past and everything that went on, release them, and then you can start to reprogram your mind. And it takes time. Reprogramming your subconscious mind to, form new neural pathways in your brain so that you can respond in more positive ways, takes time, but it can 100% be done. And I see so many people struggling with these faulty programs, and it's impacting their children. It's impacting their careers. It's impacting their relationships with their partners. So I do this work on myself. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because I'm doing this every single day. In fact, I'm honest too, because my boyfriend and I just had an argument this weekend, and we had to communicate about why we responded the way we did when we were both triggered. And, you have to work through those things. But in order to do it, you have to be aware that you're contributing to the situation.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. The awareness and the ownership allows you to respond,
Yes.
allows you to be able to say, okay, hey, because I'm aware, because I can acknowledge where there's gaps. And I know one of the things that in your book you talk about, and you mentioned it in the front end, you said, man, I shared it all. I shared some really personal things. I shared a lot. And that's not typically what society would say do, right? Especially as someone that has a platform, is putting out a book. Why do you think it's hard for people to share? And, was it hard for you to share and put that in print? It's here you go.
Yep.
Go read about my stuff.
Judgment and criticism, the egoic lens. We judge others. We criticize others. And I say, watch when you point that finger, because there's 3 pointing back at you. And I think that we co-create our own reality. So what we put out is what we get back. And it's really, for me, it was really hard to share my stories, because in fact, I talk about how I sold drugs when I was in college. And now I'm a highly successful corporate executive, right? And to say that out loud, I couldn't, it still makes me nervous, but I'm so far past that life that I'm okay to talk about it, because I healed that part of myself. And I took ownership for what I did, the decisions that I made, and I'm looking to make this world a better place. I'm looking to help young women such as myself who were struggling from abusive relationships and trying to get by on their own. My family abandoned me when I was a teenager because I was in an interracial relationship. So I grew up without a family. My mom stood by my side, but the rest of my family abandoned me. So I went through a lot of crap at a young age and didn't have a support system there to support me. Now, it was hard, and it was very, very hard to share all of my stories in the book. But the reason why I do it is because I know that there are millions of other people out there struggling behind the screen, behind the camera, behind social media, everything you scroll through and you see all this perfection. There are people struggling out there. And if my story can make a difference in their life, then thank God, you gave me a voice, you gave me the ability to write. Let me use that for good. And so that's the purpose and why I do it.
I think that's one, we got that commonality in our stories. Both had some drug dealing days while we were in college, and we talked about this before. Is like when you're able to talk about it, it removes the power and shame of it.
Yeah.
I talk about I was a drug dealer, then I became a pastor. They're like, well, hold on, wait, what?
So listen, I say, yeah, I used to hustle drugs. Now I hustle personal development book.
Thanks. 100%. I'm like, I went from selling candy bars on the playground, drugs in college, to Jesus in a church. I've been in sales my whole life. And so, yeah, we have that. And it really, the power does come from being able to say, hey, look, I'm just going to put it out there. Mm-hmm. And Carrie, have you found that you thought people would care more than they actually do?
Yes. Yes.
Talk about that.
So, I consult for a company, and when I was with them before the book came out, I was telling them about the book, and the director of operations asked me to speak to the employees. And I'm like, well, do you want me to talk to them about like leadership and business development? He's like, no, talk about your story. I'm like, seriously? And he's like, yes, talk about your story in the 7-step system. And this was the first speech that I gave on my story. And so the night before, I'm thinking, oh God, how am I going to do this? And I said, I'm going to start out by saying 17 years ago, I sold drugs. And that was the first thing I said. That's how I started the speech. And I said, I've never said that out loud to a group of people. I never thought I would in my entire life, but it's the truth. And so I started telling my story. There was a lady in the front row, one of the employees, and she started crying. I mean, she had tears, and I'm just like, wow, do you know how many people? Oh, wow. It was received so incredibly. And people were like, wow, this is great. Thank you for sharing your story, because people need to hear that. We aren't so different after all. And we need to stop the judgment and comparison and the criticism and all that other crap and just come back to, again, center our connectedness that we're human. And we go through experiences and we go through seasons for a reason. We might not know the reason. We might not ever know the reason, but they're something. We are here to evolve spiritually and grow. And there might be a reason. You might not know why, but.
Yeah, you always learn the reason eventually.
Yeah.
I think about the times that I had in ministry for 13 years now with consulting and coaching and speaking. It's the same story as you. Like, I get up there and I remember talking to middle school and high school students and being like, hey, like 5 years ago, I was a drug dealer. You now have the room.
Yes. What? I agree. It's crazy.
You now have the room because they're like, oh no, wait, what? In a church hired you?
Yes.
Like, did he sneak in? Did he steal a mic? And so, but what I love is that we all have our stuff. And that's the heartbeat behind your book.
Yeah.
Like, that's the heartbeat behind the screen is going, okay, cool. Like, you see on social media exactly what I want you to see.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do people start to go, okay, heard this conversation today. Carrie's inspired me to go behind the screen. How do I start? How do I get started in it?
Start noticing your thoughts. Just spend the next week becoming aware of your way of thinking. What thoughts go through your head and at what periods of time? So do you have certain thoughts around certain people or in certain circumstances, or, just start to notice your way of thinking. Okay. Start to notice your way of thinking when you get triggered. What triggers you? What were the thoughts that went through your head that triggered you to respond in the way you did? So if we want to help ourselves, because here's the truth. You can't change anyone else. The only person you can change is yourself. You can't control anyone else. The only person you can control or be in control of is yourself. So if you're struggling with a situation, look at yourself. How do I show up to this? And start by noticing your way of thinking, because your thoughts create your feelings. And this is science. So they're electrical signals that signal neurotransmitters, which are hormones and chemicals that make your feelings. Okay. And your feelings, by essence, will create your actions or reactions. So start to notice your way of thinking and feeling when you react in a negative way, and just notice it. You don't have to blame yourself. You don't have to look at yourself as like you're not good enough or whatever else. Just notice it. This is the key. This is consciousness. This is raising your level of consciousness and awareness, is to step back from yourself and just become an observer of your way of thinking and feeling within certain circumstances. Now, that's step one of my system, which is tag it. Okay. So now I'm going to tag these thoughts that are causing me to feel negative or feel a low vibration, and they're causing me to react in a negative way. Because now I can go back and figure out, well, why do I think these thoughts? Where did they come from? That's step 2. Go back and remember it in your life timeline. Okay. Step 3 is to feel it. So once we go back and remember certain things, we have to feel what we felt then, because most people suppress their emotions. This is our defense mechanism. It's our fight or flight nervous response, right? So you either fight or flee. Well, mine's to flee. I tell people I'm done. I remove myself from the situation. Well, you can't always do that. So sometimes you have to figure it out. So you have to feel the emotions from back then and then flip it. That's step 4. Sometimes we have to flip our way of thinking. We walk through life with the blinders on and we say, oh, it's always your problem, or it's this person, or it's that person. Sometimes we need to flip our perspective and even look at the situation of, how you received this download, and flip the perspective and look at it from, maybe my parents were never aware. I tell stories about my dad and my mom. They got divorced when I was younger and they fought a lot. Well, my dad thought certain things because he picked up that conditioning from his father. And so it just passes on. So we have these faulty programs being passed down from generation to generation, and we're not aware of it. So awareness is key to stop the habitual patterns that we pick up and we pass on to our kids. And this is where we can all make a difference. If you start doing the inner work and you start doing the healing your childhood trauma or the problems from your past, then you can stop passing it on to others. So, yeah.
Perfect way to start laying in this place. So yeah, Carrie, this has been so well said. And we mentioned this before. I'm glad you went here and while we're recording, is that for those of us that have kids, like what we don't transform will transfer.
Yes.
And they, I think through my own counseling and coaching and my therapist and realizing so much of stuff, like it was just caught.
Mm-hmm.
I modeled it, I witnessed it. And, it's the whole like apple doesn't fall apart from the tree.
Yep.
It's true. But then us as the apple goes, okay, I want to roll away. I want to roll away. But if not, then we just sit in this cycle. And so I think what you're doing is such a powerful work, and your book is going to transform a ton of people and get you well on that way to impacting a million lives. Where can people find the book? Where can they find you? Where can they find you most online?
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. You can go to carrie-schmidt.com is my website. You can look for the book there. You can learn what it looks like to work with me. If you're interested in learning more about life coaching, you can schedule a complimentary strategy session on the website. If you're interested in business consulting, you can also schedule a strategy session. And the book Behind the Screen is available on Amazon. If you do get it and you read it and you love it, I would love for you to leave an honest review on Amazon. That's the golden ticket for authors. Don't forget about the reviews, guys. But no, truly, I just really want to spread this message with more people and just empower you to know that you can overcome the limiting beliefs in your mind. You can overcome the faulty programs. You can overcome so many things. It does take work. I have a client who says, I just wish there was a magic switch I can push. And I'm like, well, unfortunately, there is no magic switch. But the thing is if you start to do the work, every day it gets easier. And yeah, there's all these people that say, 21 days and 21 days, you'll get all better. Well, there's a 21-90 rule. In fact, it's 21 days to break a habit, 90 days to reprogram a new way of thinking and being. But then, guys, it's a daily practice. You have to make it a part of your routine. So I say the 7-step system, and then you have to rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. Okay. So it doesn't, these programs, it's like a computer software program in your brain. You have to uninstall it and then rewire it. And it takes work. It doesn't happen overnight, but it can happen, and you 100% can get better. And also, parents, think about this for teenagers and young adults. if they have a certain way of thinking, let's stop it now and reprogram their minds before they become 30, 40-year-old adults replaying the same patterns. So this is really important, and this work has to be done. It needs to be done to make this world a better place.
And you're doing the work, you're helping people do it, and you are making the world a better place. So we'll put all your website on the show notes and make it really easy for people to click. But Carrie, we got one more question for you before we let you go. At Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast, we want to know, what does it mean to be a champion to you?
My son is a successful young man living a happy, good life. And I am at peace and harmony in myself. I respect myself. I love myself. And I am contributing to the betterment of the world.
Come on. That's it. Centerness, getting behind the screen, cleaning it out. Carrie, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. Our passion is to talk to successful people and hear all about their journey and what it took to get there. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit up the website at unleashthechamp.com. Find us on Instagram at Kyle J. Sullivan and hit up that Facebook page at Unleash the Champ. Remember, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, keep moving.